So now I'm going to open my inner pack and get ready to drape. If you've noticed, I've moved my surgery table, my instrument table away from the patient surgery table, and that's going to allow me to have more room to open my drapes, and also after I've draped my patient, I can actually move that table over the drape and have everything be sterile. So same idea as when I open the outer drape. I want to open it such that I don't cross over, although it's not as important because I'm sterile now. But the biggest change is that now my hand can't drop below the table, and I want to avoid touching the edges once they've gone below the table. So I'm going to, instead of pulling the drape down, I'm going to just drop it down. I'm still going to come to the side and make sure that I can open it well. Notice how I'm using two hands to do this process. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that that drape goes down. And if you notice, there's a fold on this drape that I can actually touch and pull down. I'm also being careful not to lean over the drape. I'm giving myself plenty of room between me and the pack. And then I can take and bring this out. Now, you notice the drape didn't fall perfectly. I can either have my assistant fix it, or I can fix it as best I can, which I was able to do because I just kind of finagled it down. I might, at that instance, have my assistant pull that down so that then it is perfectly laying down. Okay? So now I can touch anything on this table. I can touch the edges a little bit to move the table around, but I can't go below that. So once I've done that, then I can start draping my patient. We want to be careful that we don't move too much when we're draping. So if you have an assistant, they should actually hand you the drapes, a sterile assistant. If you're on your own, then that's not really possible. So I'm going to get my drapes all organized before I start draping. They are pretty organized in this pack already. And I'm going to get my towel clamps organized as well. So again, I have to do as little movement as possible. Okay, so then when we take the drapes, they're folded in such a way that if you open them properly, they will open with the short folded edge towards or away from you and towards the patient, which is the way we want it. And so then the next step is to protect your hands while you place the drape. So the way to do that is to pinch the corners, the edges, with your forefinger and your thumb. Take the rest of your fingers underneath the drape so that they're below your thumb. And then I'm going to take and I'm just going to fold the drape around my fingers. Okay, I'll do that one more time. So pinch, fingers come like this, and then fold like that. Okay, so now my fingers are completely protected from touching the patient. When you start draping, you always want to start closest to you and work your way out. So I'm going to place this drape right in front of me first. If you remember, you never want to place the drape and then move towards the incision because you're bringing in contaminants. You always want to start close to the incision and move backward. Okay, so with this one, I'm going to place it near the incision, and then I can readjust it later. Okay, so then we'll do that. Then we'll grab our next one. Again, if I open it the right way, this time I open it the right way, then the short fold is away from me already. I don't even have to do that. Put my fingers, cover, and then doing cranial caudal, it doesn't really matter. It's just whatever you feel like doing. So again, I'm going to flip that drape over, put it down. Once I'm there, I can't go back that way. I can take it away. So it's always better to err going close to the incision and backing it up than the opposite. If for some reason, which I'll do on this one, if for some reason I would contaminate the drape, oops, it was the right way, there's a couple ways to deal with that. So let's say I put this drape way back here and I'm like, oh no, I can't do anything about that. I can't fix it at all. I can still grab this part of the drape because it's sterile. I don't want to grab any of the edges. I can carefully move it away from the incision or the surgery site. I don't want to like drag it towards the surgery site. I'm going to move it away and I'm going to drop it on the floor. Okay? Oh no, now I won't have enough drapes. Roll it. All right, so then we'll finish draping our kitty cat. So we'll drape all of one side first. One area that's easy to contaminate yourself when draping with these quarter drapes is to touch the table or the patient. So be really aware of where your hands are. And so this drape wasn't perfectly laying flat, but I don't care. It's good enough by my surgery site, and that's just gonna have to be that way. So now I'll have to walk around my table. When I walk around my surgery table, I want to keep my sterile part towards the sterile part of the table because my back isn't covered. So if I walked with my back to the table, then I would contaminate it or could contaminate it. So then I'm going to do my last drape on this side. Like so. Okay? Because I'm a right-handed surgeon, I'm going to probably do my surgery on the left side of the patient. So I'm actually going to probably stay on this side. So I'm not going to actually walk back to the other side. If I had started on this side, then I could have come back. Now you'll notice that my towel clamps are unfortunately on the other side of the table. So I can actually, in this instance, just move my table closer to me so I don't have to move around to grab them and do my clamping. Now, one thing that is really easy to do is actually to hold your clamps in your non-dominant hand while you go instead of having to walk back and forth to the table. Or if you had an assistant, which would be even better, a sterile assistant, they would actually hand you the clamps with the rings towards your hand to place. So as far as clamping goes, again, it's a two-handed process. You don't have to feel like you only have to use one hand. But I'm going to make sure that my, go ahead and come over here, that I'm going to make sure that my drapes are 2 to 4 centimeters apart away from my incision. So if you want to have a look at that before I start placing my towel clamps. Again, I can slide my drapes back if I feel like they're too close. So then I'm going to use my non-dominant hand to kind of stabilize the patient while I grab the drape and the patient with the towel clamp. One thing that can often happen when you're towel clamping is you may grab and you might not be happy with where you position your towel clamp. As long as you don't come back through the drape, you can readjust your towel clamp at will. Okay? If I get through the drape and into the patient and I'm still not happy with it, at that point, if I want to re-towel clamp, I need to take the towel clamp out. This is now contaminated, and so I need to put it somewhere where it's not going to contaminate anything further. So that means not on the instrument table. So ideally, I would hand it to my assistant without touching that end. Right, throw it on the ground or throw it on the surgery table, somewhere that's not clean. We're going to pretend that this is still clean, so I'm going to continue to clamp. Now, one thing you can do, if you're kind of short-armed like me and you don't want to get close to the table, but you need to place this far clamp, is you can actually take the clamp and turn it backwards in your hand and put it on basically backwards, and it will have the same effect as putting it on forwards.
Cut.
Okay, so once my quarter drapes are placed, then I'm ready for my body drape. So I'm going to grab the drape from my pack as a unit, and I can touch, again, anything on the table now. So I'm going to grab it as a unit, and for this I need either a sterile assistant or a non-sterile assistant to help me. I'm going to take the slit that's been made in the drape, and you can see that on the bottom, and I'm going to place that over my intended incision. And then I'm going to undo caudal and cranially, and it really actually doesn't matter which which order you do that. Then I'm going to grab a corner towards me on each end, and I'm going to have my assistant grab the corner on each end. And we're going to, in a coordinated fashion, pull the drape out like that. And I'm going to drop the drape and not touch anything below that. Then if I need to adjust a little bit more, I can. That was actually in a pretty good place. Then I'm going to take my next 4 towel clamps, which I'm again going to put in my all of them in my non-dominant hand so I can be a lot faster. I'm going to then clamp on top of the other clamp to secure the top drape or body drape. Again, I can do this one backwards if I want to. Same idea. So then I'm draped and ready for surgery. Now, before I do surgery though, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to take my table. I can touch the table on the top of it, and I'm going to move it into position such that I have a pretty much continuous sterile field from the patient to the table. So all of this would be considered sterile. If something got underneath of there, then it would no longer be sterile, but pretty much all of this is sterile. Another option for putting the table into place is to have my non-sterile technical help move the table. So Ashley's going to put that table into place, and I can help her a little bit. Sometimes that's easier to do. But again, we want to put that table into place. Now I have all of my instruments that I would need to perform a spay. Ashley's going to open up my scalpel blade and my suture onto the table so that those are readily available. If I have an assistant, I'm going to position my instruments kind of in the middle between us. If I don't have one, then I'm going to position them closer to just myself. So these instruments are fairly well arranged, but if I want to arrange them a little better, I would take anything that I know that I'm going to use immediately and put that closest to myself. So I'm going to use my scalpel and my thumb forceps to do my initial incision, so that would be the first thing that I would need. Then I can put my clamps in a certain place. My suture scissors and my needle drivers can be in one place, and that kind of thing. So you can arrange your instruments however you want, but there should be some kind of organization involved. So then I'm going to put my scalpel blade on my handle. And again, we want to avoid touching the scalpel blade as little as possible with our fingers. And if we do touch it, only touch it where there is no sharp edge. So I'll put that on my scalpel handle as you guys have been taught, so that I'm ready for surgery. And then I'll put my needle drivers back in a place where I can find them. After I've made my incision and started my surgery, I want to put my scalpel blade somewhere where I'm not going to hurt myself or the patient. So it's really important to set it off to the side when you're done with it, so that everyone knows where it is and you're not going to hurt yourself with it.